Hey, I'm making this video to look through Anthony Joshua's resume and see where Jake Paul compares to everyone that Anthony Joshua has fought as a professional. So on AJ's pro debut, he fought Emmanuel Leo, who was 8-0. I think he had a few knockouts. AJ managed to knock him out pretty easily in the first round. I would say Jake Paul is skill-wise better than Emmanuel Leo. Now, Leo is a little bit bigger. He's a natural heavyweight. But skill for skill, I would say Jake Paul has better skills than Emmanuel Leo. Then we move on to Paul Butlin, who is a journeyman, 14 wins, 19 knockouts. And he probably has more experience than Jake Paul and has been around boxing a lot longer. But I would still say Jake is better than Butlin. I think he's more athletic than Butlin. But yeah, I think obviously Butlin's a bit more experienced. But in terms of, who's got quicker feet, who's got more athleticism, that's Jake Paul. The third opponent on AJ's record, I'm not going to even attempt to pronounce his name and butcher it. I remember this fight though. He was a fair bit shorter than AJ, and he was actually pretty tough. He got stopped on his feet, but yeah, just go watch that third fight of AJ, and honestly, obviously we don't rate Jake Paul that highly. Well, I don't at least, but he's better than the guy that Anthony Joshua fought in his third fight. Moving on to Dorian Dock. Now, Dorian Dock was pretty good. I mean, all things considered, when I'm making these comparisons like I just did for the first three opponents, I'm talking about skill for skill. Obviously, you've got to add in the natural size and experience. But skill for skill, I would say, yeah, AJ was better than these first three opponents. And honestly, I would say Jake Paul is better than the first five opponents of AJ very comfortably. Then you get on to Matt Legg, who was also a bit of a journeyman. Now that gets a bit interesting. I mean, I think on the inside, someone like Matt Legg would be better than Jake Paul. But at range, I'd actually say Jake Paul's better than someone like Matt Legg. If anyone's ever seen Matt Legg fight, and that's another point I want to make about Jake Paul. One of the glaring flaws in his game amongst many is his ability to fight on his inside. If you watched any of Jake Paul's fights or even clips of his fights, he is absolutely petrified when someone gets close to him. I mean, even in his last fight against Chavez, he looked frightened of Chavez as soon as he got close. I mean, he was scared of a 60-year-old Mike Tyson. He really has poor inside fighting ability, Jake Paul. Poor. I mean, Nate Diaz was terrorizing him on the inside. Really was terrorizing Jake Paul. That is one of probably the biggest flaw in Jake Paul's game. Now, he can clinch. I will give him that. But if you're just with him on the inside, he's terrified. He's absolutely terrible on the inside. So, getting back to Matt Legg, I'd probably say, all things considered, Jake Paul is better than Matt Legg. I think he's got a better jab than Matt Legg. But that's about it. Matt Skelton, now this is the first opponent who I would say, at the time that Anthony Joshua fought him, he was absolutely shot to bits. I think he was like 48 years of age or something. He was very old, Matt Skelton, when AJ fought him. At that time, yeah, I'd say Jake Paul right now is better than that version of Matt Skelton. But in Matt Skelton's younger days, I would say he was a better fighter than Jake Paul. So I would still say the first 5, 6, 7 opponents, Jake Paul, remember all things considered, obviously you got to factor in size. I would say Jake Paul is better than when AJ fought them. Obviously Matt Skelton in his younger days, I would say, was better than Jake Paul. But at the time that AJ got to him, I'd say AJ was a lot better. I can't remember this opponent of AJ, if I'm going to be honest. I probably did watch this fight, but so I can't speak on that. Denis Baktov. I'm going to say he was probably on the same level as a Jake Paul skill wise. Probably. A lot tougher than Jake Paul for sure. But I mean, a lot of these, I mean, you could maybe make the case for a lot of the people. I guess we'll maybe find out just how tough Jake Paul is when he gets in there in this, which is a seemingly disastrous fight for him. But based on what I've seen right now, I'd probably say, yeah, a lot of these guys are a lot tougher than Jake Paul. But skill-wise, Jake Paul isn't, I mean, he isn't terrible. I mean, he isn't good either, but he's not that terrible. So, yeah, I mean, I'm just putting this out just to give people a perspective of where Jake Paul kind of is at, and maybe a lot of people are talking about the safety aspect of this fight, and I'm actually not that concerned about it for the reason I'm just showing you. I mean, if you were worried about Jake Paul, why weren't you worried about any of these opponents that fought Anthony Joshua, who are clearly less skilled? Clearly less skilled than Jake Paul. Jake Paul is a young man with the best training money can buy. So I just put this out there just to kind of put into perspective a little bit of the over dramatic reaction from some people about the safety aspect of this fight. You know, Jake Paul, I don't think is in as much danger as people think. And I'll get to that again to the end of the video. But just continuing this here, yeah, Michael Sprott. When AJ fought him, I would say Jake Paul was better than Michael Sprott, skill-wise. Michael Sprott had seen better days. Prime for prime, I would say Sprott is much better than Jake Paul. Like this is the first opponent you could say was levels above Jake Paul. In his prime, Michael Sprott, yeah, levels above Jake Paul. Jason Gavin, I'd say Jake Paul was better than Jason Gavin, yeah. I mean, go back and watch the fight. If you guys are skeptical about my take on some of these, go and watch some of these fights and look at Jason Gavin's form and compare that to Jake Paul. I'm not talking about the whole package as in toughness, chin, there's some intangibles. I'm just talking about pure boxing competency. Yeah, pure boxing competency. I think Jake Paul's better than Jason Gavin. I mean, obviously, we haven't seen Jake Paul in there with too many professional boxers, which might give us a skewed perception of his skills, but yeah. Rafael Zambano, he was actually a pretty big lump. AJ knocked him out badly, but in all honesty, he was poor. He was poor. Go back and watch the Zambano Love fight. This guy was poor, right? And he got knocked out in 2 rounds. Yeah, a lot bigger than Jake Paul. And I also talk about size in this fight towards the end of the video. You had Kevin Johnson in there. Kevin Johnson in his younger days, maybe even when he fought Anthony Joshua, was a much better fighter than Jake Paul. Yeah. Better fighter than Jake Paul. Was 36 when he fought AJ. But skill-wise, yeah. So far, up until Gary Cornish, we've got, I'm going to say, when AJ actually fought them, I'm going to say Kevin Johnson's the only one that's better than Jake Paul. Now, I would say Sprott and Matt Skelton are better than Jake Paul, but in their younger days. When AJ got to them, they were way past it. So in the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 fights of Anthony Joshua, I'd probably say only Kevin Johnson was better than Jake Paul. Yeah. But I think Kevin Johnson at this stage had lost so many fights, had lost the motivation for boxing, which Jake Paul clearly hasn't. So there are a lot of nuances when we're comparing the guys that AJ has fought to Jake Paul. You got Gary Cornish in there. I would say Gary Cornish, I'm going to be honest, I can't really say because he only went around with AJ and got sparked out. But going off that round, and he didn't look great. I mean, he got sparked out, didn't he? I'd probably say Jake Paul was skill for skill better than him. I think Gary Cornish was just a big lump. A lot of the guys he fought were probably just intimidated by him because of how big he was. He was 6'7". But in actual skill, Gary Cornish didn't have great skills, truth be told. Then you get to Dillian Whyte. I mean, is there even anything to be said about this? Obviously, Dillian Whyte is magnitudes better than Jake Paul. I mean, that's the first. I mean, now you're getting to the boys where it's like, come on. I mean, Dillian Whyte is miles better than Jake Paul, especially when AJ fought him. That version of Dillian Whyte mops the absolute floor with Jake Paul. Charles Martin, yep, a lot better than Jake Paul. Dominic Brazil, yep, better than Jake Paul. Eric Molina, even when AJ fought him, even though he came to survive, yep, better than Jake Paul. Vladimir Klitschko, obviously better than Jake Paul. I mean, Carlos Takam, yep, better than Jake Paul. Joseph Parker, yep, better than Jake Paul. Alexander Povetkin, yep, better than Jake Paul. Andy Ruiz twice, yep, better than Jake Paul. Kubrat Pulev, yep, better than Jake Paul. Alexander Usyk, now that's a tough one. No, I'm just joking. He's light years better than Jake Paul. Jermaine Franklin, yep, he's better than Jake Paul. Hellenius, yep, he's better than Jake Paul. Otto Wallin, yep, he's better than Jake Paul. Francis Ngannou, now, I'm gonna say something that I think some people might disagree with. Boxing skill-wise, I think Ngannou and Jake Paul are actually comparable. I actually think defensively, I'm telling you this now, Ngannou was horrendous defensively. Even in the Fury fight, Fury could not miss with the right hand. Like literally every right hand. I don't think Francis blocked or dodged many right hands from Fury. I mean, it was like a punching bag in there, and that's when everyone thought, okay, this guy's got a granite chin. Funny thing about this fight was, I remember before the fight started, DAZN put on a little poll: who's going to win, AJ or Ngannou? And more people thought that Francis Ngannou was going to beat Anthony Joshua. I was like, that is pathetic. I mean, I predicted before that fight that AJ would mop the floor with Ngannou. I know everyone was high on the Tyson Fury fight and all of that, but yeah, I think a lot of it was just the warped sort of perception that boxing fans have, especially over in America. It's just bizarre how many of them thought that Ngannou was going to beat AJ. And especially like the MMA sort of lot. It was just wild. Like, just never understood it. I mean, yeah. But in terms of skill for skill, I don't think Ngannou... I think defensively, Jake Paul's better than Ngannou. Yeah. I think he's got better feet. I think he's got better ability of seeing punches coming. I think Ngannou is big. He's clanky. He's easy to hit. And he's a bigger target. Right? And then obviously Daniel Dubois is magnitudes better. So yeah. I mean, since from Dillian Whyte onwards, I would say they were all pretty much better. Maybe with the exception of Ngannou. Like, of course, all things considered, Ngannou is a 270-pound man. But I'm just talking about pure skills comparison with one another. So yeah, that might come to a surprise as a lot of people that I think, and not even I think, I mean, I can say it with a lot of certainty, that Jake Paul's better than a vast majority of the early opponents that Anthony Joshua fought. And he was. Go back and watch those first 13 opponents, fought how many ever it was, right? Gary Cornish included. And you tell me, and actually picture Jake Paul boxing in your head next to these guys. And tell me if you think they're better than Jake Paul or not. Yeah. I think a lot of people just have the perception that Jake Paul may be the worst guy AJ's fought. No, he's not. I don't think he's the worst guy AJ's fought. I mean, He's he's a club level fighter, if we're going to be honest about it. I mean, his greatest achievement would be winning an area level title. And look, if he goes on and proves me wrong, great. I'm happy to be proven wrong. But right now, my opinion of Jake Paul, yeah, he's about an area level fighter. If he won an area level title, that would be a massive achievement for him. That is about where Jake Paul is. And I think the fight that shows that the most is the Tommy Fury fight. Because when he fought Tommy Fury, honestly, both of them didn't look great at all. At all. But yeah, coming on to this fight, the safety aspect, listen, Jake Paul's a cruiserweight. He's a young man. Obviously, if AJ hit him right because of how the skill gap, yeah, maybe something could go tragically wrong. But if I'm being honest, I don't think there's as big as a risk of that as people think. For a few reasons. One of them being that I don't think a lot of times when something happens to a fighter and they get tragically hurt, it's because they're taking a sustained beating. I don't think Jake Paul is good enough or tough enough to actually do that. If he gets knocked out with one punch, those generally don't cause those, long-term sort of brain damage and, all the other terrible things that happen to boxers who could take a bad beating. So, yeah, I think Jake Paul in this fight is actually not in as much danger as people think. Now, if Jake Paul comes in here and he actually tries to win, he's going to get the head knocked off his shoulders. I think he's going to come in here and he's not stupid and he's going to try to survive. They've given him a 22 by 22 foot ring. They've put AJ at 245. AJ's coming off a 1.5 year layoff. He's been knocked out. Remember, AJ's never been knocked out. Yeah, he got stopped by Ruiz, but he was stopped on his feet. He was knocked out. He was out against Daniel Dubois. And we've all seen how AJ reacts when he gets stopped or he loses a fight and how his confidence goes down. Even with all of that considered, I think Anthony Joshua, even at 36 with the longest layoff of his career, has more than enough to beat Jake Paul in a dominant fashion. That being said, I don't think Jake Paul's coming here to win. I think he's coming here to sell a narrative. And that narrative is, well, I went 5 rounds with AJ. Or I went 6 rounds with AJ. Or heck, I went the distance with Anthony Joshua. Not really the distance because it's not 12 rounds, it's 8 rounds. And in all honesty, when this fight was first announced, I thought, yeah, AJ's going to knock him out in 3 rounds, max. But then when I thought about it, I was like, you know what? I don't think that's going to happen. I actually think this fight's going to go rounds. I think AJ will probably take him out between round 4 and round 6. And if Jake Paul is tougher than we think, or if Jake Paul is able to weather that, he might actually go the distance with Anthony Joshua. I don't think he will. I think he'll get taken out between 4 and 6. You got to remember, AJ doesn't fight like Derek Chisora. People are thinking, well, ding ding, round 1's going to go. And Anthony Joshua is going to come out and just tear into Jake Paul. Now, maybe he will. Maybe he will. But I doubt it. I've never seen AJ do that in any one of his fights. AJ fights reflects his personality. He's more calculated. He's more, he's got his PC personality. It's all very, put together nicely. And that's how he fights as well. He doesn't just go out there like a lunatic swinging punches. That's Derek Chisora. Now, if this was Derek Chisora, I'd say there's a more likely chance that Jake Paul gets taken out in the first round because of the way that they fight, right? AJ doesn't let shots go unless he's sure they're going to land. And against top-level guys, that's a good attitude to have. But against Jake Paul, he's not at that level. You're probably better just letting your hands go and you'll probably get him out of there because he's not that good. But I don't think AJ will make that adjustment. He won't realise, well, I'm not in here with a top-level guy, so I haven't got to be as thoughtful about my work. So I actually think it's going to go through a few rounds. And I think Jake will be very negative. I think he'll clinch whenever he gets close to AJ. And I don't think he's going to actually get hit with that many clean shots early. Now, a lot of people are going to say, how can that even happen? Surely AJ hits him with everything at the kitchen sink. You got to remember, if Jake Paul's coming to fight, then yeah. In boxing, it's very easy, if you're just in survival mode, to get away from a right hand. And you've trained your whole camp to do it. It's not very easy, but hey, Jake Paul's been training now for 7-8 years. He's had 12 fights. He's had the best sparring. He's had the best facilities money can buy, the best coaches money can buy. Been doing it for 8 years. Put this into perspective. Fabio Wardley has been boxing around the same time as Jake Paul. And he's a world champion. So, could Jake Paul go a few rounds? I mean, he should. He's going to come to survive. I mean, look, if he gets clipped at any point, yeah, there's always the danger he gets stopped early. I agree with that. But he's not going to come in here like Ngannou. Ngannou came to win. Francis Ngannou came to win. That's why he got knocked out. Jake Paul, I don't believe is coming here to win. Listen, if he gets the win, it's a bonus for him. It's an MV, whatever his promotion card. Maybe he goes the distance and he gets a robbery decision. Wouldn't be surprised if that happened. Remember, this isn't a matchroom show. But I don't think the fight goes the distance. I do want to clarify that. I think Anthony Joshua will stop Jake Paul between round 4 and round 6. I initially did think he would knock Jake Paul out early, but I don't think that will be the case here. I mean, it's possible, look. Anything can happen. It's heavyweight boxing. They've got 10-ounce gloves on. Maybe Jake Paul comes to fight. And if that's the case, well, they better put up nets around ringside to catch his head from flying into the crowd. Because that's what will happen if he actually tries to fight Anthony Joshua. I don't think he will. I think he'll come. I think this is all calculated. It's all about selling you a narrative after Jake Paul loses. If he gets stopped in 5 or 6 rounds, say, look, yeah, I got stopped. I was on my feet. I got stopped. My corner threw in the towel, whatever. Now you have the narrative for the rest of Jake Paul's career. You see, I don't think Jake Paul is stupid enough to actually think he's going to come out and hold the center of the ring and, trade shot for shot with AJ. And, kind of like he was doing with Tommy Fury to an extent, or like he was doing with, I don't know, who like Tyron Woodley or whoever else he's fought. I think Jake Paul's going to come out and fight like that. He knows if he fights like that, the probability of him getting knocked out is higher. And I think he's going to get stopped anyway. I don't think he's going to get knocked out flat cold. I don't think Jake Paul's getting out knocked out cold. And people call me crazy. You got to remember that in boxing, a lot of people fail to understand that just because Ngannou got knocked out and he's 271 pounds doesn't mean the same is going to happen to Jake. Remember, Ngannou is the most devastating knockout on AJ's record, right? Now, going back, right, the third opponent on AJ's record actually got stopped on his feet, and he's smaller than Ngannou, right? He's probably not much bigger than Jake. Let's see what weight he was. Is that 219 pounds this fella was? Jake's going to be about, 225? And he got stopped on his feet against Anthony Joshua. And he took some big blows from AJ, right? Now, I'm not saying Jake Paul's going to take the same sort of blows that he took, but what I'm saying is he didn't get knocked out as badly as Francis Ngannou did. And Ngannou's a better boxer than this guy is. I mean, this guy was, no disrespect, a complete, cream puff of a fighter. Someone you pad your record with. The thing is, Ngannou gets hit very clean. Now, listen, Jake's not a defensive wizard, but AJ's not a pressure fighter. Do you know what I mean? AJ isn't going to come out here throwing mad punches if Jake Paul's moving around the ring. But you really think AJ's going to come in and turn into like some Mexican style pressure fire just to get a stoppage against the YouTuber. Now he's gonna fight how he normally always fights, calculated, behind the jab, at the pace that he fights. A lot of AJ's knockouts come from guys who are aggressive towards him. You very rarely see AJ get a knockout with him forcing it. And I don't think AJ should force it anyway. I think he should fight his fight. If the knockout comes, it comes. And I know that sounds crazy. It's like, oh, this is Jake Paul. Now, I do think AJ does need to get him out of there. I don't think Jake Paul can go the distance with AJ. I don't think that's a good look for AJ. And I think AJ will get him out of there. But I don't think it's going to be in the first 3 rounds. I think it's going to go between 4 and round 6. 4, 5 or 6 is when I see Jake Paul getting taken out in this fight. Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah, let's see what happened. Those are my thoughts. I could be wrong. Listen, maybe Jake Paul gets ironed out. Maybe Jake Paul surprises us and actually pulls this off. But I cannot see that. I think that's just bizarre. I don't think Jake Paul has any chance of actually winning. Maybe some crazy robbery or something, like AJ gets caught by a headbutt and you're 2 rounds in and they go to the scorecard, even though you got to wait until 4 rounds to go to the scorecard. But they just do it anyway because it's MVP and the judges just have Jake Paul ahead or some weird, crazy... I mean, that would be hilarious, man. That would be hilarious, but yeah. Look, Jake could get knocked out whenever in this fight, obviously, but I'm telling you, he's going to be so negative in here. So negative. To the point where I think the crowd are going to boo, and I think people watching are going to be like, what the hell is this? Now, look, maybe AJ might have been prepared for that and be like, you know what, I'm training in this camp. I know this guy's going to come here trying to survive and I'm going to hunt him down and knock him out. And maybe he does that. And he could. I mean, look, it's Jake Paul. But I'm just saying the natural way that AJ fights isn't aligned with that. You know, even if it's Jake Paul. Like, AJ, to me, looks like he fights everyone the same. Like, I don't think he's going to be like, oh, it's Jake Paul. This guy's going to come to survive. I've got to come in here and throw a lot of punches and put the pressure on him, because if I don't, then, you know, there isn't going to be much action. And I do think, as bizarre as this sounds, the first round or 2 or maybe even 3, I don't think there's going to be many punches from, because Jake Paul's going to be so negative, and AJ is going to be following him around the ring, like, come and actually fight me here. Like, I've never really experienced this, where someone's just gone full into survival mode. Like, even a journeyman that AJ's fought on earlier in his career, who haven't maybe not come to win, they've come to give it a little bit of a go. They've held their feet. Do you know what I mean? They've been in the vicinity of where punches can actually land. But I'm going to be honest, I won't be surprised if we see Jake running and just cowering away and just doing what he can to run that clock down. Now, look, it might not be enough. And AJ might catch up to him and just clean him out, which is really what he should do. But that's just not how AJ normally fights, is what I'm saying. Right? He doesn't chase a guy around the ring. Right? He's like, name me the last time AJ's really put pressure on the front foot. You know, this isn't like David Benavidez. Like, AJ doesn't fight like David Benavidez. You know what I'm saying? He don't fight like even Alexander Usyk. Very good. Alexander Usyk, incredible pressure fighter. People think Usyk's a boxer. Usyk's got crazy front foot pressure ability. Yeah, like, just crazy. But yeah, I've gone on for like half an hour here. I've just lost track of time. Yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think Jake Paul has actually a shot of winning this fight? I'm interested to know if anyone out there actually thinks Jake can actually win this fight. I don't rule out him going the distance. I think he could. I don't think he will, but I think he could. But yeah, let's see what happens.